Have you ever wondered why fasting works incredibly well for some people and completely backfires for others? Because the key to losing fat isn't fasting harder, it's fasting smarter. So in this video, I'm going to show you the best fasting hacks that I've learned over the past 15 years, helping thousands and thousands of people lose weight, the tricks to make fasting easier, and how to get results that actually last so that the weight never comes back. Now let's start by addressing the number one reason people fail at fasting, which is trying to fast too aggressive. You might be guilty of this one yourself. Someone online said 18 hours is good, so you try 20. You heard a 24-hour fast burns more fat, so you jumped right in and tried it for yourself. Or you decided that if you're going to do this, you might as well go all in, but then by day 2, you're exhausted, irritable, maybe even shaky. So you decide that fasting just isn't for you. But you can't just jump into it like that. If you've been eating 3 meals plus snacks for 20 years or 30 years, your body has become used to that. So when you just quit, it's going to be a shock to the system. Instead, if you want to start the right way, take a smaller first step. Begin with a snacking fast. For the next 10 to 14 days, you just eat 3 solid meals a day and avoid eating anything in between. Then step 2 is a sugar fast. Eat the same 3 meals, but pull the obvious added sugar and refined carbs for 10 to 14 days. This sets you up for success because when you reduce sugar, it stops your blood sugar from crashing every few hours. And those crashes are what cause intense hunger spikes that make fasting so difficult. Then in step 3, you finally start intermittent fasting. That's when you either shrink breakfast for a week or skip it. And you land in a simple 14 to 16 hour overnight fast. Or better yet, instead of cutting breakfast, you cut dinner, which might surprise you. And I'll explain why in just a moment. Now, once people finally ease themselves into fasting, the first big concern that pops up on their radar is hunger. That's because you're so used to eating whenever you feel hungry. So it feels wrong to get hungry and just ignore it. But you need to change the way you think about hunger, because contrary to how it might feel, it's not an emergency, it's just a hormone. The hormone's called ghrelin, and this hormone rises at the same times that your body is used to eating. So if you had lunch every day at noon for 25 years, your body will send a hunger signal around noon no matter what. That doesn't mean your body needs food. You can rest assured that if you ignore it, the feeling will go away. It rises, it peaks for 10 to 20 minutes, and then it settles back down, even if you don't eat. However, when you first get started with fasting, those waves can feel strong, especially if you've been eating a lot of refined carbs like breads, pasta, pastries. It's because refined carbs turn into sugar in your system, causing blood sugar to spike almost immediately. Then, like I just mentioned, after blood sugar spikes, it quickly crashes back down, creating an intense feeling of hunger. That's why I recommend removing sugar from your meals before you shorten your eating window. It gets your body used to not having a constant flow of sugar, but that's not all you can do to get your hunger under control. There are several things you can drink while fasting to stop hunger from driving you crazy. One is electrolytes. When insulin drops during a fast, your kidneys release more sodium, and low sodium can feel like hunger, can feel like fatigue or brain fog. But a glass of water with a pinch of real mined salt, like a Himalayan or Utah, often smooths that out very quickly. Another is sparkling water. It actually expands your stomach, stretching it a bit so that it tells your brain you're not hungry anymore. And then there's black coffee or tea. These work because caffeine naturally suppresses that hunger hormone ghrelin. Not to mention that both of them help you burn fat. Apple cider vinegar is another useful tool. All it takes is 1 tablespoon diluted in water to steady your blood sugar and reduce cravings. If you want to learn more about foods and drinks that you can have without breaking your fast, be sure to watch my other video that goes into a lot more detail. I will include a link to that in the description below. Now, hunger is important for short-term success with fasting, but it's not what determines long-term success. Most people start fasting because they want to lose weight. What they don't realize is as they get older, the real risk isn't just gaining fat, it's losing muscle. Here's why. After you eat, about 80% of the sugar that leaves your bloodstream gets pulled into your muscles. But starting at about age 30, you lose muscle at a rate of about 3 to 8% every decade. That means you have fewer parking spaces for blood sugar. As a result, more sugar stays on the road in your bloodstream, which means higher insulin levels, which means easier fat storage and more stubborn belly fat. On top of that, after 50, your muscles don't respond to protein the way they used to. This is called anabolic resistance. It means you need more protein per meal to trigger muscle repair than you did at age 30. So your muscles don't grow as easily as they used to. That sets the stage for fasting to backfire if you're not careful. That's because if you shorten your eating window without making the changes that I'm about to recommend, your body can pull energy from fat and muscle, which you can't afford to lose. And over time, that can create a vicious cycle where you fast to lose weight, you lose some muscle along with fat. As a result, fat loss becomes harder, so you fast even more aggressively and you lose even more muscle. And the cycle continues. So here's how to protect your muscle while you fast and avoid that altogether. First, eat enough protein during your eating window. If you're over 50, aim for roughly 30 to 40 grams of high quality protein per meal. That's about 4 to 5 ounces of a chicken breast or 5 to 6 large eggs. That's how much it takes to flip on your muscle building switch. Second, do resistance training 2 to 3 times per week. You don't need to live in the gym, but you do need to challenge your muscles. Add a little bit of weight to your exercise. That will keep them growing and improving their sensitivity to protein. I actually prefer doing 10-minute high-intensity interval training workouts because they're fast, easy, and all the stimulus you need to keep your muscles in shape. For those of you who are interested, I'll include a link in the description below to 5 of my free HIIT workouts that you can use anytime. Now, third, remember this pro tip. You want to lift fed and walk fasted. What that means is you should lift within 1 to 2 hours after a meal. That's when you not only have the energy, but your body will make the most out of all the protein you just ate. Then when it comes to walking, you want to do the opposite. If you walk for 20 to 40 minutes before your first meal of the day, you take advantage of the fact that you've been fasting for 10 hours or more, which results in you burning even more fat. There's no sugar left in your system, so the walk forces your body to pull from fat storage. Okay, so we talked about how to get started with fasting and how to make it successful long term. Now let's talk about how to do it the right way, because most people are fasting the wrong way. They skip breakfast, they eat lunch, they eat dinner, and then maybe push dinner a little later. It feels convenient because dinner is social and breakfast feels optional. Unfortunately, that's not how your body's wired. It doesn't process food the same way at 8 a.m. as it does at 8 p.m. Your insulin sensitivity, which is how efficiently your body moves sugar out of your bloodstream, is the highest in the morning, and it declines as the day goes on. So later at night, the exact same meal produces a larger blood sugar spike, and it keeps insulin elevated longer, which not only shuts down fat burning, but it also affects your sleep. When you eat close to bedtime, it forces your body to digest food when it should be cooling down and shifting into repair mode. That's one of the reasons people wake up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. and can't fall back asleep. So here are the hacks to make fasting more powerful and improve your sleep at the same time. First, start by simply closing the kitchen 3 hours before bed. That's it. If you normally eat at 8:30 or 9 o'clock, move that final meal earlier, like 6 or 7. That way you'll naturally extend your overnight fast and sleep better. If you want to go a step further, try front loading your calories. Eat a solid breakfast and lunch, and then make dinner smaller and have it earlier. However, if you're serious about losing fat through fasting, then you need to work with your biology, which means you completely flip intermittent fasting on its head. Instead of skipping breakfast, you skip dinner. This is what's called early time restricted eating, or what I like to call night fasting. You try to finish eating by 2 or 3 p.m. That way you're not forcing your body to handle its biggest blood sugar load at the time of day when it's least equipped to do so. That means your eating window would be about 7 to 8 hours from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., giving you a solid 16 to 17 hour fasting window. If you can pull this off, you'll not only lose more fat and get better sleep, but it also improves everything from how much hunger you experience to how many calories you burn to even a decrease in heart rate and blood pressure. Now, I realize it's not easy when you're used to dinner being a social event, but if you can pull this off, you'll see much better and faster results. If you want this laid out in a simple step-by-step format so you don't have to remember everything, I put together a free night fasting guide for you. And it walks you through exactly when to eat, when to stop eating, what your daily routine should look like, and how to structure your meals so you're burning fat while you sleep. For those who are interested, I'll include a link to that in the description below. Now, the whole point of this fasting is to have a period of time when your body switches from burning the food you eat to burning the fat stored in your body. And there's actually a specific point where it happens. It's called the metabolic switch, and it can flip anywhere from 12 hours after your last meal to 24 hours. Now, that's a big gap. And if you're falling on the far end of it doing intermittent fasting, you might not ever switch into fat burning mode. This is why two people can both fast for 16 hours and get completely different results. One hit the metabolic switch hours ago, and the other is still burning off the pasta from last night. Fortunately, there are things that you can do to make sure you flip that metabolic switch sooner. First, like we were just talking about, don't make dinner or your last meal of the day your biggest carb meal. That loads your body with sugar right before you start fasting, making the switch take a lot longer. This change alone can put you in fat burning mode hours earlier. Second, stay consistent. The more often you fast properly, the more efficient your body becomes at switching fuels. Third, drink coffee or green tea during your fast. Neither of these break your fast, and both push your body towards fat as fuel much sooner. And finally, make sure you're going on that early morning fasted walk that I mentioned earlier. A 20 to 40 minute brisk walk in the morning before your first meal helps burn through any remaining glycogen, and it nudges you into fat burning mode much more quickly. Now, let's assume you're doing everything we discussed. You eased into fasting gradually. You learned how to deal with hunger. You're taking all the steps necessary to avoid losing muscle. You're doing night fasting to burn as much fat as possible, and you're flipping your metabolic switch after just 12 hours without food. There's still one more big problem that everyone eventually runs into, and that's a plateau. No matter how many things you're doing right, you're still going to see the scale slow down, typically somewhere between 4 to 8 weeks. This happens because your body is adapting to your new normal, and in response, it does things that can sabotage your fat loss, like slowing down your metabolism, reducing the amount of fidgeting that you do, and make you feel hungrier. Now, most people respond by doubling down and fasting even harder, but that can make it even worse. Your body will just respond and slow things down. Instead, you need to switch things up and keep your body guessing. One of the best ways to do this is use what I call a refeed. That's when you alternate between 2 or 4 or 6 weeks of fasting, but then add a week or two of eating at maintenance calories in. People who do this lose significantly more weight than those who just fast and diet continuously for the same period of time. Another good strategy is to change your fasting pattern. Change what your eating window is. Make it a little bit longer, make it a little bit shorter. Try night fasting if you've been doing intermittent fasting, or try an alternate day fasting. That's when you cycle between one day of eating normally followed by a day where you fast for 24 hours, or just reduce this consumption and the size of your meals to down to typically around 500 calories. The most important thing to remember is when you hit a plateau, it's very normal. Every major weight loss journey includes them. So don't get upset or start feeling like it's hopeless. The people who succeed are the ones who adjust their strategy and fight on instead of abandoning the mission. Just throw less predictable eating patterns at your body when you hit the plateau, and it'll come out of it. Now, how do you know if fasting is actually working for you? The fact of the matter is that you can be burning fat and completely miss it. That's because the scale isn't always the first place you'll see the change. And sometimes the signs that it's working look like the exact opposite of progress. That's why so many people quit right before they have a breakthrough. So in my next video, I break down 15 weird signs that you're burning fat. Even if the scale says you're not, some of these will likely catch you off guard, but once you know what they are, you'll never look at your progress the same way again. I'll include a link to that video here. Click to watch it next, and I'll see you there.